This short presentation is a summary of a comprehensive research. All the sources of the points being made and many more details are available as a free download here. The Injil is a revelation from God given to Jesus for his followers. It was available during the time of the Prophet of Islam. The phrase between his hands, bain yadayhi, found here needs to be translated word for word to give the sense of the present tense which it has. Sometimes it is understood literally as, between or in his hands. Usually it is an idiom for in his presence, or in his power, or in his possession, or at his disposal. Muhammad appealed to the Injil several times because it has been preserved from any change. How can Christians in the 7th century be asked to judge according to the Injil if it was changed or partly corrupted? These verses show clearly that the true Injil continued to exist during Muhammad's lifetime. Otherwise this command to stand firmly by those previous books would be impossible to follow. If the Injil was changed, why would God send Muhammad to ask people who read a corrupted book? If only a part of their book had survived corruption, how would they know what bits were still reliable in order to answer Muhammad? How can people be commanded to teach the book which they study earnestly as true teachers if it was lost, changed or only partly reliable? This verse rightly questions the content and interpretation of teaching, not the source of it, God's book. Since the Injil is also the Word of God, none can change it either. This is confirmed by the Injil too in Matthew 24:35. While Christians are described as people who forgot a part of their covenant, of hiding much, of quarreling among each other and being in doubt about the content of the Injil, nowhere in the Quran it says they changed their book. This is in contrast to verses saying that some Jews refused the Quran, tried to change it, wrote verses on paper and claimed them to be part of the Torah, concealed verses in their own Torah, were doubting and quarreling about it and threw its meaning behind them. At any rate, it is important to note that the Quran describes good Jews and Christians who certainly would never have changed their scriptures, even if bad ones were attempting to. The latter could at best only have succeeded locally in Saudi Arabia. However, there were already thousands of manuscripts in the original languages and many translations available. Any attempts to change the scriptures in the 7th century, the advent of Islam, would have been found out quickly. The Injil is not a book that got lost soon after it was given. According to Islamic commentators, along with the Quran it is called a book because it either refers to the preserved tablet which is with God, or to indicate it was something that could be written. In both cases the various sayings were eventually written down by the companions at a later date. The book itself and early history prove that the name Injil was used interchangeably for either the spoken or written down message of Jesus Christ, the Gospel, or all other writings of the New Testament Bible together. Similar to Islam, there were false teachers claiming a different message and later producing different writings. However, they were clearly refuted and not accepted by the true followers. The Quran rightly denies a number of false beliefs held by a few Christians in the 7th century. True Christians never worshipped 3 different gods or Mary as one of them. They do not believe God is Jesus or that Jesus is the Son of God in a physical sense. These false interpretations have been clearly identified as heresies, held by a minority. Similarly, the fact that various Muslims groups interpret the Quran differently, does not lead them to accuse each other of having a changed Quran. To conclude the latter from the former is not logical when talking about either the Injil or the Quran. All truth is God's truth, in whatever book, newspaper or online article, etc. it may be found. Therefore, it should not be looked at as inconsistency when followers of Jesus quote certain verses from the Quran. If they confirm biblical, secular, historical or any other facts, Quranic verses can be used by people other than Muslims, without any problems. The Quran indeed confirms the Injil to be unchanged in the 7th century. For Muslims that means it was reliable in the centuries before, right from the beginning when it was written by the end of the 1st century. It has been preserved in more manuscripts than any other ancient work. The dates of these manuscripts still in existence range from 125 AD to the introduction of printing in Germany in the 15th century. Most scholars agree that all the manuscripts are 99.5% identical in content, with the differing 0.5% attributed to minor variations such as spelling or copy mistakes. These variations are not seen to affect the meaning or interpretation of any major doctrine and are usually given referenced in footnotes in most of today's Bibles. The Quran too faces similar issues when comparing various Arabic versions with one another. We have complete Injils since about 300 AD and Gospel books from 5th to 16th century and in various places of the world. All agree most certainly on the central message about Jesus Christ, his physical death and resurrection. Even some early Muslims approved of it. Would God allow his word to be changed? Imagine a thief who breaks into a house to take stuff and put other stuff in instead. Think of a rich, watching owner who has all the latest security systems and manpower at his disposal. Would he not intervene successfully to protect his possessions? For Muslims too it was unimaginable that God could be so weak as not to protect his word. Only in the 11th century, about 400 years after the Quran was written down, the idea that the Injil was changed was first proposed by Ibn Hazm. An acceptance of the confirmation of the Quran that the Injil has not changed will significantly alter the discussions between Christians and Muslims. Now the actual content of the Injil can finally be looked at. To find out the reason why it is called good news will enable both communities to keep the main thing the main thing. How to honor God by finding peace with Him, one another, and how to live life to the full as it was designed by God. To Him alone be glory, honor and praise. A summary of the contents of the Injil can be downloaded here. Jesus Christ said in the Injil, "Anyone who chooses to do the will of God will find out whether my teaching comes from God or whether I speak on my own." John 7:17. Are you prepared to choose to do God's will and follow His truth, even if it leads you outside your traditions? If the truth is more important to you, then you will find out whether His teaching is from God. Ask Him now to show you the truth about this matter. Start reading the Gospel and find out for yourself. For questions and comments please contact